I'm Susan, VP of Marketing, Business Development and Customer Experience of SPTEL. Thank you so much for all of you to join us today in our Homegrown with Digital Age Leadership Sharing Series. Today we are very glad to have Ching Ping with us. He is the Senior Business Development Manager of Fortinet. He'll be sharing with us some of the key trends of cybersecurity in financial services industry and also how organizations could gear up their defenses so that to minimize their chances of falling victims. So thank you so much, Ching Ping, for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, so maybe you would like to share a little bit about yourself?
Been with Fortinet for the last 10 years and coming from a networking background. And as we move over the last few years, really the need for cybersecurity and then coming together with networking, telecoms is really an arena and a very exciting times to be in.
Okay,
yeah.
So we also just now mentioned that you come from Fortinet, so maybe you would like to share a little bit of the background of Fortinet?
Fortinet is headquartered in Sunnyvale, California. So we've been formed since 2000, listed in NASDAQ since 2009. Fortinet's pioneered the idea of a unified threat management, or UTM for short, in the industry itself, and we've been very successful with it. And we continue to innovate. And in the last 5 years itself, we came up with this idea of a security fabric, and it's something that talks about the convergence of security and networking.
Could you share a little more with us on some of the key trends or technologies to look out for in cybersecurity, especially pertaining to the FSI sector?
So for FSI, if you were to just do a very quick scan, right, people are talking about digitalisation, cryptography, cryptocurrency, super apps, and making use of analytics to understand customer behaviour itself. So if you were to look at all these things, it's really about technology, right? Technology in terms of helping us improve customer experiences, in terms of better revenue and lower cost, operational efficiency itself. There are, like I mentioned, the end users and then the customers themselves. So things like social engineering, targeting the end users is typical. For the end users within the company itself, social engineering, phishing attacks, these are all very, very common. So which is why it leads to the need to implement certain technologies that's mandated actually by MAS, right, in Singapore, things like multi-factor authentication, etc.
That does sound intimidating. How can we defend against such threats?
Threats are going to continue, right? And it's going to be even more sophisticated. We see this convergence of networking and security. What's the underlying infrastructure? It's really the network itself, right? But if you're going to build a network without consideration for security, right, then you're going to end up with two silos. I think we can still have multiple technologies, but the consolidation part, that's where we need to then start integrating all these technologies to share information. Say I detect a breach certain place, I'm not just going to keep it to myself, right? This technology, I'm going to share it with you. And what can you do with this information? You can then respond to it. I think the old adage when it comes to cybersecurity, many people like to say that hey, it is technology, people and processes, right? And that is very true, right? Here in Fortinet, what we can provide is technology. And I mentioned about convergence. That's when technology converge, right? And when we say organizations converge, that's where processes come in, right? And people converging. But then again, processes, well, depends on the organization, the size, the security, maturity itself. We may not have that best practices. That's where we can leverage on service providers like yourselves, right? SPTEL. Well, when we talk about together with a telco provider like yourselves, we typically talk about connectivity, right? I can connect to you, and that's it, right? Yeah. But as technology evolves and cyber threats evolve, right? Connectivity is just not good enough. Maybe we can say 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we are able to solve that connectivity problem. But we need to put that together with a security problem, which is what we are doing today, right? When a customer who buys a service from you, it's not just about connectivity. We've collaborated to put in a virtual firewall service so that they can, at the same time, be secure from external threats. I think the key thing is this, right? When the traditional way of doing things would have you having a CPE firewall in the customer's premise, right? Good and bad of it. Well, of course, it's distributed. Everybody has a hardware. Olden times, we like to see, something physical there, and we can control it. We can manage it. But the thing is, when it's decentralized, the thing of the logistics behind it, how we can manage it more efficiently. So with a vFirewall, what we are doing here is we've centralized all that function into your point of presence, right, into your cloud itself. So the market has moved in such a way that we are centralizing security within the point of presence, the POPs or the cloud that you have. And I think that's what we've been doing, right? To have a virtual firewall, virtual WAFs hosted within your network. It allows customers to connect in, spin up an instance for them, themselves, right? And putting in whichever functions they want, allowing them to scale up, scale out on demand.
Especially now the trend is talking about the flexibility and also scalability and how people can adopt solution on the fly. And because of the situation, especially right now after COVID and also even before COVID, right, there's so many dynamics in the economies and how things work in the organization. So I think if you're able to have the flexibility and also have the service from the service provider on demand is very important. Yes, and I think the network service provider out there has also evolved into software-defined, and that's where cybersecurity solution provider like yourself will complement very greatly in there. So what is your take?
Once we've got it inside your cloud itself, then allowing customers to send their traffic over to you and secure them, I think that's the number one thing that we want to do. So it's already been done. And the other thing that we are going to be concerned about, or everyone is going to be concerned about, is the performance, right? So, which is what I mentioned about this being able to scale up and scale out, right? That's where today my requirement may be this much, and as my business grows, I'm going to need to consume more bandwidth, more resources. So, what do I do, right? I mean, in the traditional sense, well, we may need to do a forklift upgrade within the customer premise itself, right? But once it's in your POP, in your cloud, then the vFirewall or the vWAF itself then would allow the customer to then just spin down the smaller firewall, bring up a larger one to cater to their business needs. In your opinion, what makes for a successful cybersecurity strategy? I think at the end of the day, it's still about the three things, right? People, process, and technology. So being able to converge both networking and security would be key. Being able to operate 24/7, I know resources and people itself is hard to come by. If we are able to leverage on a service provider like yourselves to offer that economies of scale and scope, right, to the market at large, I think that would really help. I like to compare cybersecurity to a F1 match itself. I think we all recognize that F1 itself is not just about the car, it's about the driver behind it, and it's also about the people who are constructing it and operating it, right? So if you were to take a parallel, I can say that what Fortinet is able to offer you is that car itself, but we need a good driver like yourselves, right? SPTel itself being able to navigate the race course and the whole team behind it, right? Which has the processes and the ability to operate this, to win the race against the cyber criminals itself. Right, thank you so much, Ching Ping, for your great sharing today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, and it's my pleasure, Susan. Thank you. Thank you.